Good evening and welcome to round 11 and 12 of the 1974 USAC Championship. Coming to you tonight from Trenton International Speedway, a circuit we've visited once before in this championship. Tonight it'll be a double 100 lap couple of sprint races for our competitors, and with me in the booth tonight I have Dave Miller. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Jonathan, and here we are once again at Trenton. Looking forward to another interesting evening of racing tonight here at ISO.
It'll certainly be a very interesting one. We have the championship almost sewn up by David Yates. He only needs, well, only within quotation marks I suppose, he only needs 1 12th place finish to secure his championship here, but this is certainly not a track where I would want to try and secure a championship at.
Absolutely not. As we learned last week, it can be very difficult securing championships, and certainly at Trenton it's not easy. It's a difficult track and a difficult cars to drive, so anything can happen.
Anything can, and everything often do happen in racing. As Jason mentioned, it's kidney bean time. The Trenton International Speedway, a 1.5 mile kidney bean oval, and we'll be doing it in 2 100 lap, more or less sprint races for this championship, 150 miles. The 2 races each will cover, so a total of 300 miles will be driven tonight. And to be noticed is that the heats are individually scored towards the championship, so there's 2 scoring races available tonight. And I suppose the most noticeable feature of this, as they call it, a kidney bean, is the dog leg on the back straight.
Indeed, this is the track that makes those people who say it's just turning left about oval racing think again.
For sure it is, and the points for this 150 mile races will see 300 points awarded to the winner, 240 to second, 210 to third, 180 to fourth, 150 to fifth, 120 to sixth, and then it's a 15-point drop from 90 down to 15 for positions 7 to 12. And the points that David Yates needs to pick up is 10 points, so that's why he needs 12th place to be able to secure the championship.
Indeed, if he wants to do it all himself, he just needs that 12th place. But additionally, Cezary Slapinski desperately needs to win this, well, both races tonight and the final race at Phoenix if he wants any hope at all of winning the championship.
Well, there's both that, and he needs David Yates not to finish any of the races, as the championship stands at the moment. Before we look at that and more in depth of what needs to happen, David Yates leads on 3,050 points. Cezary Slapinski, the only title challenger still around, with the slightest of opportunities to secure the championship for himself, lies second on 2,160 points, and then it's a pretty close affair for third between Thiago Canola and Jakob Freriksen, only 25 points separating them at 1,960 and 1,935 points each. And then we have David Junt lying fifth at the moment on 1,745 points. But to more in-depth look at what will need to happen, as I noticed someone in the background has just taken a dip in the lake on the infield with what looks like a blown engine. As Dave mentioned, Cezary Slapinski must win all of the remaining races And David Yates has to score no more points for Cezary Ślepiński to be able to win the championship, and that's quite a tall order, just having to win 3 races in a row. And then you also take into consideration that David Yates can't score in any of the 3 remaining races, and David has been one of the more regular scoring drivers in this championship.
Absolutely, but as we said earlier, it's certainly not impossible. Weirder things have happened.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I know I, before the race, talked about the 1998 WRC Championship, where Mäkinen needed to score, I believe, 1 point to secure the championship. Yeah, I think he needed to score to get like 1 or 2 points to secure the championship. The first day out, he skidded on a patch of oil, hit a concrete block with the right rear of his car, and took his right rear wheel off. The weekend over for him, and Carlos Sainz, who was the other championship contender, was lying in the position he needed. I think he was 3rd for the final stage, and Mäkinen thinking, well, this is over, I'll start heading home. Headed to the airport, and like 500 yards or something from the finish of the stage, final stage of the rally, Carlos Sainz's engine let go. And only way Tommy Mäkinen found out about that was that his brother was actually still at the station watching, and called him at the airport, telling him about the crazy stuff that had happened, and that he was world champion once again.
Absolutely, and if you look in 1986 in Formula 1, just look at Adelaide and Nigel Mansell with the tyre. Had it in the bag until the tyre said no.
Indeed. And it's those small kind of things that can change the situation of everything. Let's see, we are actually having some action on track, so let's actually head out there and see what this track looks like in a more autumn-esque feel. If we can find someone who is about to start a lap. I believe that's Adam Hackman just heading onto a lap, so across the start-finish line. And into turn 1, a very, very tight left-hander. I know some people are using 3rd, some 4th through there. Then we have this very tricky dog leg. Oh, and we can see Adam really getting loose there, down into what I like to call 4 and 5. Up there we can see David Saber getting loose, and we have a bit of a crest at the exit of 5, which can also cause a few issues. So what would you say, Dave, as you've driven the track previous to this evening's events?
Yes, it's a very difficult circuit. Certainly that dogleg is very challenging, as these cars really are not designed to do any kind of right-hand cornering. And that crest on the exit of turn 5 equally, it's very easy to spin up the rear tyres and get fired off to the inside of the track. Another one to watch out for will be coming out of turn 2. A few drivers are taking that in 3rd gear and changing up. But you have to be extremely careful. There's no rev limiter on these engines, so if you miss your shift even slightly, you could blow your engine to pieces.
We've seen previously that these engines can be a little bit temperamental at the best of times, so that's certainly a big danger.
Absolutely. These large turbo, massive power engines in the early 70s, long before they were doing it in Formula 1, so the technology is very limited compared to what they would have later. So they are playing with fire, quite literally.
Well, I've got to say that I believe it's Jason White who's done most of the work on this Trenton track. He's done an amazing job to turn it into the more autumn feel that we're having here at the moment. It's looking really nice.
Indeed, absolutely have to give credit to the guys behind the scenes at ISO. They've done a fantastic job once again.
And like likewise with the cars. From what I've heard, pretty much everyone has enjoyed themselves once they've driven these cars. Oh, as we can see, Anders Nilsson with a big loose moment coming out of turn 2, hitting the outside barrier, and currently Slapinski right where he needs to be, top of the timesheets, if only just. Well, I'm not sure how did qualifying turn out. I was doing a few other bits and pieces, so I didn't actually catch how that went.
Off the top of my head, Anders Nilsson actually qualified on pole with David Jackson second. Slapinski himself is in 5th.
That's interesting. Slapinski had the quickest overall lap, as far as I'm aware, on the timing sheets before the qualifying session, but impressive once again to see Anders getting his hands on these cars and making them work very well for himself. David Junta, I notice, is actually on the server in your old McLaren.
Yes, he's in as a very late entry, driving the Alaquasto 86, so it'd be nice to see that car run well, and I think David Junt's the sort of person who can give it a good run.
Well, certainly not completely out of contention by looks of things, although 16th right now. He's up on his lap right now, and I'd expect, as you mentioned, he's very consistent, so look at him turning in probably a, what would that be, a high 34 in a moment here. Actually lost a bit coming out of the final turn, but that's one of those drivers we can look out for to have a good race, and I am hoping that Eric Plana will have a good one in the Jerry O'Connell car. Been turning up for these races and had a good run going last time round, but if I remember correctly, a late race incident saw him in strife once again. And we have Jules Bochard actually doing something that Jason mentioned that we could do. We could drive around the neighborhood on the outside of the track here. Very neatly put together. These little Easter eggs that the ISO team occasionally put into these tracks.
Well, you know, in practice we do explore every single bit of the track.
Very much so. As another semi-late entry is Ronnie Larson Miles in the Eldon Rasmussen Rascar entry. And he actually qualified 18th, so that's better than Drexler in one of the Robert L. Fletcher cars, which is impressive to say the least. But the race session is soon to get underway here. Let's have a look at the grid as the parade lap will go past very quickly. As you mentioned, Anders Nilsson has taken pole position. Number 40 on pole position. We have David Yates in the pits at the moment, just about getting out on time by the looks of things. In the Dick Simon Racing car on second position on the grid. Jacob Ferguson lines up third for Grand King Races. Adam Hackman lines up fourth for Unlimited Racing Team. Cesare Slapinski fifth for AJ Foyt Enterprises, with Ray Riddall again doing very well in qualifying, sixth for Wall Motor. Jason White, I think, will be happy with 7th in qualifying for Del Spinelli Jones Racing Team. And Brian Yannick slightly disappointed, I'd reckon, in 8th for Robert L. Fletcher. Jukka Martinen back in the Team McLaren, lining up 9th, with Peter Lavac returning and lining up and rounding out the top 10 in the Fred Gerhardt entry. Richard Coxon back racing in the Pat Patrick Racing Team number 60 in 11th. Alberto Ibanez lines up 12th for Del Spinelli Jones. Raul Jereb 13th for Pat Patrick. Juha Bos 14th for the leader card races. Ralph Wilkie entered car with David Saber 15th for All American Races. Alberto Quino 16th for Roger Penske. Bruno Chacon 17th for Lindsay Hopkins. Ronnie Larson Miles for Eldon Rasmussen 18th, Drexel 19th for Robert L. Fletcher, Juha 20th for Jan Martin, Eric Plant 21st for Jerry O'Connell, David Young 22nd for Al Luquasto, and he rounds out the field. And that was a quick one, but so is the running in these races, as we are coming around to get the green flag here at any moment, and the green flag is out and the race is underway. If I can find the green flag, there we are. And it looks like David Yates actually springs up into the lead early on in this race. Great start from him.
It looks like Anders Nilsson had a little bit of a slow getaway once the flag dropped, so he's been passed by Fredriksson and Jakes. As they all look to have made their way cleanly through the first corner. To complete the first lap, we've got Jakes leading from Jacob Fredriksson, Anders Nilsson, Cezary Slapinski and Adam Hackman, bringing up the top 5. But Jukka Mattinen's already on the move, diving up the inside into turn 1.
Oh, but Brian Yannick is trying to hold strong on the outside. That could possibly work. It'll be a tight squeeze through this dogleg though. Ooh. Oh, and Brian actually loses... No, that's Hackman actually. My apologies. So Hackman loses out further still, dropping to 7th because Ray Riddle got up inside. Oh, and the fight for the lead. David Yates was under attack by Fredriksson coming out to turn 5 there, but didn't happen to pass there. And we can see that Jason White has taken an easy start here, looking after the car. But Yates currently streaming out a little bit of a lead. A bit of a gap there.
Absolutely, I think David Jakes will be driving quite the conservative race though, so he's going to be wanting... He's not going to be wanting to get tangled up in any too great battles here as Fredriksson looks up the inside into turn 1.
As does Saber in 15th, so he takes away the position from, I believe that's Raul Jareb. Up in front, let's see where we have that. There we have it, I think. Is it? Oh, Martinen almost hit the outside wall there.
And there's been a change for the lead. Jacob Fredriksson has gotten through. He passed David Jakes in the dogleg.
Oh wow! All the stops being taken out here. As here comes David Yates once again up the inside, flies past. Oh, and we have...
And Anders Nilsson follows him through.
Oh wow! And Jukka Martinen trying to follow him through as well, and he does so.
And Jacob Fredriksson has been absolutely freight trained there, dropped from 4 positions almost in one corner, and now Cezary Slapinski's having a look.
When Martinen looking around outside once again and saw him do that lap before and almost doing the same thing now to Anders Nilsson. Oh, and Slapinski going all loose on the exit there, as does Ibanez trying to take a tight line.
And Mattinen with a big run, looking around the outside of Nilsson into turn 1. He can't get it done this lap, but if he can get the switch back, he might get the run through the dogleg and into turn 3.
Oh, looks like Anders put a very good defensive line on though. Oh, but Martinen still has the speed.
Oh, that's impressive.
That's indeed very, very impressive. And Fredriksson holding on to 4th grimly at the moment, ahead of Slapinski and the rest. This looks like a 8, 9, 10 car group here. Slapinski now looks up the inside into turn 1. I reckon that could very well be position done and dusted, although Fredriksson, great speed around outside, holds on with a bit of a loose moment on the exit. Great driving for all these guys at the moment.
Unfortunately, we've lost Eric Planner in all the excitement. He's stopped in the pits, not sure what happened to him.
Oh no.
But meanwhile, David Jakes is leading, and everyone else is second, coming out of turn 5 there.
When looks like Ray was about to drop back there, but Hackman with a cut back up the inside, down on the apron, no room to go through there.
Richard Coxon's making excellent progress as well from that, was it 11th place start? He's already up to 6th and challenging for 5th, coming through turn 4.
indeed started 11th, so he's had a great start. And as you mentioned, it's eight cars in one position by the looks of things. It's about three seconds covering the top 10 cars.
And now look at Szapinski. He's making the move for third. Doesn't look like he can get the exit.
Once again trying there, but no dice. But Ferguson lost out to Coxon, so Coxon got up into 5th position.
You can see there just how much momentum he lost on the exit of turn 2, with just not being able to get on the power as easily as he wanted to.
Very much so, and while Yates is enjoying a bit of a lead, it's only 8/10 or something. So, Anders Nilsson now looking up the inside of Matanen though. So, the more they battle, the more time they will be losing out. It looks like the top 7 or 8 cars is actually breaking free now from a duo behind, which I believe was that's Bors and Hackman, who's running 8th and 9th at the moment.
Indeed, there's Ibanez and Yannick fighting into turn 1 side by side. Yannick still holding on to 10th at the moment.
Nilsson under attack from Szapinski.
And Matanen having a look he's right on the gearbox of David Jakes now. As they're coming through turn 4. He's looking to get the run out of turn 5.
Right up underneath his rear wing coming off the turn. And Szapinski made his way up to 3rd in the meantime as well, so all hands on deck here. The championship contenders are getting stuck right back into the action as Matanen goes up the inside of Yakes, and Yakes, understandably so I'd say, doesn't put up too much of a fight.
Absolutely, he's the one who's got everything to lose at this point. Szapinski, on the other hand, has nothing to lose, so I expect we'll see quite a big push from him very shortly.
Indeed so. Looks like there's still more action behind, but we'll stick with the riding on board with Juha Matanen looking back from his car for the time being as we follow the championship contenders. For now, we'll look through the field where more action is going on when the time comes. From what I've heard, the amount of stops will be probably 2 stops for most drivers, mainly due to tires, because the tire wear is quite high. Szapinski gets sideways and up the inside on the exit, and Yates gets loose on the outside. Still side by side going into turn 1. I wouldn't be surprised if Yates holds on here.
He doesn't need to, though. He just needs to finish in the top 12, as we said earlier. So he'd be quite foolish to fight this one too hard, I think. But David Jakes is the sort of driver who understands these things. So I don't think he'll be doing anything too silly just yet.
Indeed so. But it did hold on that time around. But Szapinski again up the inside. But by the looks of things, Yates has a bit more straight line speed than Szapinski in that who's in the Coyote, but coming off the corners and through the corners, that Coyote looks to be handling quite well.
Oh, and we've got someone blown up on the exit of turn 2.
Oh,
it's Juha Boss.
Oh no! That's very unfortunate.
And David Saber is retired as well, so both the Eagles gone in a single lap, it seems.
Oh dear. I don't think the Eagle boys will be happy with that, as Szapinski sets the fastest lap so far in the race, while that all went on. It looks like the main part of the action is still up in the top 7 cars, as now Anders Nilsson is again under attack, this time from Richard Coxon, and Ferguson ain't too far behind either. As I believe that would be Juha Bors joining us now. Really unfortunate.
Yes.
There, Juha.
Oh, well, it happens when you play with the boost button.
Aha, so passed a bit too much of the power plant, did you?
Yes, I didn't expect it to build that easily, but
Oh,
lesson learned.
Someone's crashed. Oh, just about everyone gets away with it.
Jules Bouchard crashed.
It's a red car. I can't quite see. It was not
Jules
one of the
Bouchard.
cars. Oh dear. That's unfortunate, but luckily no one got collected in all of that by the looks of things anyway. Schlapinski.
Michael Drexler has also made an odd maneuver, exiting turn 1.
Well, Schlapinski up into the lead. Matanen didn't fight that too much by the looks of things. But yeah, up until that point, Juha, how did you find your race going?
It went well, but I suppose I made up most of my time just by running more boost than anybody else. If I had to run through to my pace, I don't think I'd have been that far to the front. But we'll see. I wonder when people are going to make their pit stops, if you're going to make one or try to drag on with all tyres.
Certainly something to ponder as David Yates takes the low line, Matanen takes the high line, and very interesting to see how our drivers are working their way around this track. And from what I've heard, some people are thinking of doing 2 stops, some are possibly thinking of 1. It's all down to what they think will work, as David Yates jumps up into 2nd place, but Matanen with a run. Ooh. I wouldn't. If I was in Yates' shoes, I wouldn't feel comfortable with Matanen looking up the inside in the dogleg. And Matanen runs around outside. Ooh, was that Coxon striking the wall? Yes, it was.
He gave it a little slap there. We'll have to wait and see if that's going to affect him.
As Nilsson now sets the fastest lap of the race, so top 5 is certainly on the pace, as it were.
Matanen goes for 2nd.
Yep, he did that through the last turn, actually, running around outside of David Yates.
Oh, and Alberto Banias is spun off in the kink. He's on the inside of turn 4, missing his rear wing.
Oh no! And
he's out.
And I will need to, between the races, turn on my replay button. That's the one thing I forgot. My apologies to everyone watching. I will sort it out for the 2nd race. But presumably that was due to the kink, or dogleg as it's also called, causing issues as we sort of expected before the race. Because now traffic is getting in the way as well for the lead cars. Brun Chacon in the Riley. Well, Matanen trying to run around outside. That was not what Chacon
Bruno was expecting.
No, indeed. That looked
and this could open a gap for Richard Coxon, who is immediately on his tail.
Indeed, and it also helps David Yates to get a bit of a breather.
Matanen clouds the wall.
Dear me, that's Matanen's lines, I think, messing with where Chacon would expect him to be. So that's unfortunately Matanen dropping a position to Coxon, but I think Coxon will be happy with that, driving up into 3rd position here in a one-off drive for Pat Patrick. And that's Drexler, I believe, getting lapped by
Yes.
Now.
Yes, and he's now being lapped by Richard Coxon, has to take the wide line, allowing Matanen to close in on him. With a very twitchy looking McLaren.
I'd say he did give that outside wall a good slap, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's tweaked the suspension a little bit.
Yes, I would expect that.
Ooh, considering how loose that just looked, I would probably agree with your...
Yeah,
that doesn't look like a healthy car.
No, it doesn't, so we'll have to hang on to that for 75 laps. Which will be quite a challenge, I think.
Oh no! And it's Nilsson with a spin towards the inside of the track coming off of turn 4.
He hasn't hit anything yet, so if he keeps going, yes, Sanders keeps going. Good.
Wow.
Well, he's lost a few places, but he's still running. Lose a few more places.
I think in this case he's just trying to find the safe gear to get going in and try to clean his tires. That was a very lucky spin, not to hit anything.
Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Shapinski's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's pulling up quite a gap now from David Jakes and keeping it very clean.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he needs Jakes to finish outside the points. So
yes, he's doing everything he needs to do, but unfortunately, other people aren't doing what he needs them to do.
Indeed, so at the moment it looks like he's doing more or less a Felipe Massa of was it 2009?
2008, is that Glock incident.
Indeed. Except obviously Jakes ain't currently out of the points, but Shapinski is doing a Massa, doing what he needs to do, leading the race and pulling away, but we'll see what happens to Jakes later on in this race. And I believe, according to how the tires have been wearing for some drivers, we are closing in to the first pit stop. It shouldn't be more than 5 or 6 laps away.
That'll be interesting to see who's opting for a 2-stopper in this race.
It'll be an interesting
which was my idea.
It'll be an interesting one, especially if we get a caution flag, which could happen.
It certainly could, and as always, anything has previously happened in racing, and everything does happen. And Nilsson now closing in on Jason White, so at least we've got one more Vels Panelli Jones racing car in the field at the moment, and hanging on and doing a pretty good job so far. Knowing Jason, he'll come strong in the last probably 30 to 35 laps.
Oh, and Brian Jennings just had a moment coming into turn 4. I saw him on the grass. He's kept it on the track, but he's slow out of turn 5 now.
Ooh, and a bit loose as well. So clearly driving hard, even though the pace ain't quite coming out of that Robert L. Fletcher machine at the moment. But obviously it could be, I suppose with this track specifically, it could be both a setup thing and a driver thing, where even though the setup might be good, you as a driver don't gel that well with this track.
Meanwhile, Richard Coxon has taken over second place from David Jakes.
Oh dear. So, considering how far back from Coxon Jakes is, I'd say that could very well be a mistake.
Well, he's only a car length behind, so maybe Coxon's turned up the boost to get fight.
That could possibly be true, but that looked like more of a gap than just a bit of difference in boost, but I suppose we'll see in a while.
And just outside the points positions, Anders Nilsson is looking to take over Jason White's 13th place.
Indeed, and Anders obviously took pole, so he should have more outright pace than Jason, but as always, catching is one thing, passing is a complete other.
Indeed, and further down the field, there's a battle for 8th position developing between Peter Hlavic and David Juntz. Both coming through turn 4 into turn 5 at the moment. Junt all over the back of Petter. Down the front straight now.
Watching this from Brian Yannick's point of view, so Junt looking up the inside, looks like Hlavic.
And he's got him.
That very much from behind at least, looked like Hlavic just let him go then. Though Hlavic gets a good run through the dogleg, here he goes up the inside, but runs a little bit deep into the corner. Can he get the power down to still stay ahead of Junto? Just about, by the looks of things, just barely avoiding the wall.
I think Hlavic gave the wall a bit of a slap there actually. I heard a thud from my perspective.
Oh dear, that's a bit unfortunate, but Junt on the outside. unless he can get the power down. Ooh, loose and all kinds of stuff going on, but he is still side by side with the Czech. And the Czech driver holds on for now ahead of the Swiss.
Meanwhile, I haven't seen anyone pit yet.
Ryan Yannick with a big loose moment. But it might be obviously that people run deep in the first stint as well to... Oh dear, there's contact, the Queen
Contact between Lavac and Junt.
Oh, there's two set of contacts then. Jareb and Equino got together, and you said Junt and Lavac got together?
Yes, at the exit of turn 2.
Oh dear.
Both still running. Someone's pitting. Yeah. Coxon is pitting. Coxon is going for the 2-stopper.
Oh, and in behind that's...
Larson Miles, I believe.
Indeed it is.
Yeah. Coxon is trying the strategy. I wanted to try to see how far it brings him.
I reckon we will stay with Coxon here. See, he's taking two sets of both sides of the tires, so he's not staggering them. Full tank of, well, at least a tank.
2/3 a tank.
Whether it's full or not, we obviously don't know. Ooh, and that's a very tight exit.
Yeah, and he's got to hope there's no yelling now, or he'll be in trouble, because he's basically lost a lap.
He has dropped a lap. He's come out exactly where he pitted from, 3rd place.
Now we can see the advantage. Will Richard get any quicker than the others on basically old tyres? Because they should be really worn by now, because Richard's got the grip advantage.
It'll certainly be interesting to watch, as Anders Nilsson still hasn't been able to find a way past Jason White up in front of him here. Let's see if we have anyone else. It doesn't look like anyone else is heading for the pits yet either, so... An 8-second lead now for Slapinski. He's really flying. I suppose in terms of Jake's strategy, could it be a bit of a follow the leader, as it were? Follow his championship challenger in terms of what strategy Slapinski puts on. What do you think, guys?
I don't think he's too worried about it. He only has to go 12th at least, so... With Slapinski winning. I don't think David's too worried about what Cesarius is doing.
That's definitely a good way to go. And he's knowing David Jakes, he's probably put a lot of thought and a lot of setup work into getting the optimal strategy for this race.
Fair enough, as I noticed Flavac has gotten past... so Lavac has lost out to Brian Yannick, I should say, in the fight for 8th and 9th as it is at the moment. But it looks like everyone else is running deep into the race apart from Richard Coxon. So they've got another 10, probably 12 laps. They need to.
Richard is setting nice lap times. 34.3 was the last one. Let's see what Cesarius is setting in the front of the field. It's only a 10 to 2 tenths quicker than Cesarius, so maybe not as much benefit from stopping as hoped. And again, Cesarius still has 8 laps to do on these old tyres.
Very much could be, and another driver driving a quiet race so far is Adam Hackman, who's made his way up to 6th at the moment. Can always trust on Adam to put on a consistent and safe drive.
Meanwhile, Anders Nilsson is taking over 10th place from Rul Jareb.
So Nilsson finally on the move after his spin. Now up into 10th from what was 13th.
And Coxon has spun off.
Oh no!
He's, well, stuck in the car park.
Oh dear.
He lost it coming out of turn 5.
Oh, and now he's... Yeah, well, thank you, Richard. Thanks for hitting my car. I need that for the next race.
I wonder if on his screen he's on the other side of that pit wall. He must have been. So that's a bit of a glitch of some kind that put him there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I really would have liked to see where that would have panned out.
Indeed, but unfortunately, not everything goes to plan.
No, this one certainly didn't.
I'm a bit worried about the pit lane now, considering those cars were strewn out, so let's try to have a quick look at what the pit lane
Yeah, the pit lane is now full of wrecks.
I wonder if Alberto's noticed if he's still on the server. If there should be a cautionary warning maybe that there's debris in the pit lane.
Well, I will give the drivers a warning.
That's probably a good idea because...
Alberto's just done it.
Okay, that's good. Because that could cause quite a bit of trouble when people come into pit. Oh no, someone else has spun! I think that's a lap car down.
It's a red car and it's Richard Coxon again.
Oh dear, so his tyres must be absolutely spent then.
Yeah, Richard like Richard is parking it. Although... yeah, I really wonder what's going to happen in that pit lane now, because there's 3 cars blocking the entrance. Basically, after chicane between David Saber's wrecked car and Bill Bouchard's.
I suppose the positive thing is it's the same for everyone still running in this race, so there's no advantage or disadvantage to be had here.
No, but I hope it's not going to affect anyone's race, because this could potentially cause even more problems.
Very much so. But this is one of those sim racing things that you can't really foresee. That's usually not a place where you end up having to run even when you test for issues and bugs, so that's just one of those things. With this pit lane incident as it is, so hopefully, as we mentioned, no problems. As David Yates is heading into the pit lane, so let's see what he sees here as he heads into the pit lane. Entered quite quickly by the looks of things, but managed to get away without any major issues.
On my screen it looked like he may have caught David Saber's car, but I didn't see it do any damage to his own car.
I was on board with him. It didn't look like there was contact, but maybe there were. But
yeah, it looked like Saber's car moved forward a little bit.
Okay, so maybe a slight glancing blow. Hopefully that will cause no further issues from here on in.
Yeah, he may not have actually hit it. It may have been a strange collision box netcode kind of thing going on.
For sure, for sure.
And here comes Little Al into the pits, and also on my screen all the wrecks have disappeared now, so...
Oh, and it looks like Alberto missed his pit stall. Don't reverse too far. Okay, looks like that has worked out for him, so only car now that has slightly lost out will be David Yates then. Suppose, for what it's worth, it makes the championship a little bit more interesting. As Nielsen now laps, that's Larson Miles, I believe.
Now we've got Fredrickson into the pits from 4th place.
When he entered slowly, quite carefully as well, so may as well
User left your channel.
Wait to tell everyone that the pit lane is safe till after everyone has done their first pit stops here. so that everyone enters in the same way, I suppose. Makes it more fair for everyone. As looks like Ray Riddle might be heading into the pit lane shortly. He does indeed, and he enters with a full head of steam, trying to lose as little time as possible. Nice and careful into his pit stall, and here comes Adam Hackman pitting from behind him as well. Stops a couple of boxes further in, and both pit crews in a battle now to see who is quickest. When Adam Hackman was actually quicker, so his pit crew was a lot quicker. Slapinski is into the pits from the lead.
That was very well timed, right in between where those two cars had just stopped.
Certainly a bit of fortune on his part. It looks like he's only taking 2 tires here. No, that's 4 tires, so I wonder if Hackman maybe only took 2 sets of tires instead of 4. Slapinski now exits pit lane. Looks like he will re-enter the track in 6th or 7th position. Just ahead of Jason White, so that's Hackman in 8th, Yannick in 9th, Rividol in 10th, Yake's only 11th at the moment. So a long way behind Slapinski.
Well, Slapinski had about a 9 to 10 second gap over Jake's. It's now about 15 seconds.
Oh, Jukka Maltonen has spun! Jukka Maltonen has hit the outside barriers and he's out! Crashing from the lead, unfortunately.
That's very unfortunate. That car did look very, very twitchy, so I wonder if that caught up with him in the end.
I suppose so. That was probably a moment in a dogleg that ended in the barriers, similar to what presumably happened to Alberto Ibanez. So very unfortunate indeed, but David Junt takes over the lead for the time being, and it looks like he will do possibly one stop. Oh, someone in front of him has just blown an engine! That's one of the Robert L. Fletcher cars. Could that be...
It's Michael Drexler.
Oh dear.
That's unfortunate for him. He was having a good, clean run around. Oh, we've got a yellow flag. Caution is out. Caution is out.
Well, that's a fortunate timing for almost everyone, especially for David Junt, actually. He could pit right now, I'd assume. And
I think he's just missed the pit exit as that came out, but if he... So, unfortunately, that's not going to quite work out for him. I don't think, but we'll see.
It looks like he slowed... Yep, there's the safety car, so... That was almost as fortunate as it could have been for David Junt, but... oh well, looks like Jason White has been able to take advantage of this, though, and headed into the pit lane.
That's not going to quite work out for David Junt, I think. As Slapinski's already coming into turn 4 to catch up with the safety car queue. So he'll probably just drop to the back of the lead lap runners.
Well, at least he gets a free pit stop. I suppose that's that, but as you say...
Oh, he's staying out.
That's very interesting, but he has called for a pit stop. So I wonder if the game is telling him that he can't pit on this lap, he needs to pit on the next one, possibly.
I wouldn't have thought so. I'm fairly sure the pits should be open at all times under safety car.
Indeed, and Yake's in for a pit stop right now. And Ferguson as well.
There's no reason for them not to. Put on a fresh set of tyres for a better attack to the end.
I suppose so, but that sounds a tad bit early for a pit stop. But Jason White took advantage of that, and I believe that will be his only pit stop for this race. Yates looks like he will be rejoining in 7th. Very interesting, and there's some position, looking for position, but looks like things behind the safety car to sort that out. Here comes Lavac, looks to be shuffled into 2nd.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but
I wonder if it's a timing where they were compared to the safety car, or the start-finish line when the yellow flag was thrown, maybe.
yeah, it's certainly possible. Or it could just be the case of once again USAC man's lost it, and
Doing a bit of air ruling, as it were, taking it from thin air and deciding that this is what we should do today.
well, it happened in real life.
For
As
sure.
the pace car looks to be coming in this lap, then.
Yep, and I forgot to put up a yellow flag, so my apologies. Thanks for bearing with us, I should say, with me making slight mistakes here, but green flag is out, and it looks like David Junta has had a very good start, even on old tyres. Lavac, I believe, is on new, so he should be in a good position to try and take advantage here, as is obviously Strapinski. Only a few laps old tyres there.
Indeed, and Nilsson on right behind him there is a lap down, so he's got a clear shot at the moment.
For sure, and Jakeson has quite a bit of safety margin then, with Nilsson a lap down in 10th, Aquino a lap down, and Jarebe a lap down.
And Junt's coming into the pits now.
Interesting to see, so where will he come out? And he very strategically takes a bit of a pointed line up there when he heads into the pit lane, and Jason White now getting passed by David Yates.
I feel that may have been a bit of a strategic miscall by Junt there. I think he should have pitted a bit earlier.
Could very well be. He'll struggle to stay on the lead lap.
He's on the move now, so he's going to need a very fast pit exit if he wants to stay on the lead lap.
Well, here comes the leaders. Lavac leads.
Just coming out to the pit exit now, halfway through turn 2. I think he might just hold on here.
We'll need to drive like a devil for the opening lap here. As here comes the leaders right in behind him. And I'm sure Lavac is thinking, please get out of the way.
I'm sure he is, but in IndyCar racing, the blue flag is only advisory. Junt's under no obligation to get out the way here.
Indeed, but there goes Lavac up the inside at least. Owen runs a little bit wide. Ooh, and Jund with a loose moment coming off of 2. Through the dog leg, and it looks like Lavac has taken the position for good for now. And Hackman currently 3rd, so he was able to take advantage of that yellow flag. Vidal in 4th, Fredriksson 5th, Jake 6th, Yannick has dropped back to 7th then. Jason White in 8th, and David Jund currently 9th. And he himself obviously a lap down, but staying well with Lavac at the moment. Ooh, as he actually goes around outside, going into the dog leg. Still side by side coming through there, and Lavac for now actually staying the lap ahead. Ooh, is there a bit of contact? Ooh, and that's a spin. Will he hit the barrier? He does. Only with the front end though.
He looks like he can recover that back to the pits and keep going. And that looks like what he's trying to do.
Indeed, that was unfortunate, but one of those things when you're trying to unlap yourself, contact can be made.
I have to say, that's a massive strategic win there for Petar Harvic. He was running about 7th or 8th before the safety car came out, and now he's in the lead.
Indeed, and clearly not too slow of a drive either, because he's so far been able to pull a bit of a gap to Strapinski, which is no mean feat considering how fast Strapinski was flying away early on in this race.
Absolutely, that Coyote's a very fast car, and Strapinski's a quality driver as well.
Indeed, as Adam Hackman climbs up into 3rd position, going past Ray Riddle. So I think that's a change for position twice over, since I believe Hackman was 3rd a few laps ago. And Yates in 6th, obviously pulling up the field at least a little bit, just putting himself in a safe place, I suppose, where at least where he feels that is the case, as Anders Nilsson looks like he's put himself where he's okay. I'll just stay behind here and wait to see what happens in front and go from there. As the battle is on for 3rd. Now 3 cars: Hackman, Riddall, and Fredriksson. Oh, and Hackman loses Hackman round! Oh, and hard into the outside barriers. But trying to get going once again. Hard hit, but at least the older part stayed on the car, but that car looks to be moving quite sinisterly from side to side as he's trying to put the power on.
Yeah, he's definitely damaged the suspension. That car's looking very unstable right now. Yeah, I think quite sensibly there he's bringing it into the pits for repairs.
I don't think he had much of a choice other than doing that, so very sportingly done. Where's...
Well, we've been distracted there. Slapinski's retaken the lead. Lavic has dropped to 2nd.
That's Lavic. Sorry, I thought he had dropped even further back. So Slapinski possibly taking a few laps to get the tyres up to working ways, and then he's off. Because that went by very quickly for him to take the lead. Oh, and Fredriksson now spinning around and out into the outside barrier. Coming through turn 4 and 5.
It's certainly all kicking off now.
For sure, looks like everyone thinks, well, gloves off, time to go for it, and we can immediately see the results. And with the way it looks now, if 2 more drivers retires, then it doesn't matter what Yates does, he can crash out and still score 12th position. So
But he was saying to me before the race, if it gets down to that position, he'll be going full boost and seeing what happens.
With the way you have talked about it, he'll probably blow the engine before too long then. But that means Yates is up into 4th. And Ray Riddall, for the moment at least, securely in 3rd. Which I think is one of the better race positions Ray has been running in this year. Some very good qualifying results and being somewhere in the top 10 in the races, but I don't think he's ran consistently in the podium positions for too many occasions during the season.
He's always been in the high midfield, and he's put on some good performances both in IndyCar and in F1 recently, so I think he's going to be one to watch as a bit of an outsider here.
For sure.
And Havic has dropped out. I think he's had a disconnection.
Oh no, not again! Oh, then that... I know he was talking about having connection issues. I believe he opened... he was working on opening ports, which is sort of like the highways of the internet. In and out. But clearly that has not worked, and for whatever reason, that since the car looks more or less fine, that most likely is a disconnection, as you say.
Yeah, he just disappeared coming out of turn 5.
Oh no. I can't believe his bad luck. And I suppose Yates can't believe his good luck. Other competitors is dropping like flies.
So we're down to 13 cars left, I believe. There's Fredrickson still in the pit lane. Don't think he's called it a day yet. And Lars and Miles are still running around at the back.
For sure.
Indeed, Fredrickson's just rejoined as I say that.
Well, at least it's good to see him cracking on. He only needs one more retiree to score points anyway, and in his position running, I believe he's sitting, was it 4th in the championship, just a few points behind Thiago, so any point is good points for him in the championship hunt. And running Lars and Miles, a few laps down, but doing a good job in that race car. Keeping that on track ain't too easy, is it?
That's a very impressive drive he's put in so far. That's a very difficult little car to handle sometimes, and he's kept himself clean, kept it tidy, and just plugging around, building up the experience on the laps. So a very good little drive from him so far.
And that'll actually be him in the points in another lap, or actually now he's actually in the points, so even more impressive that drive of his so far. Just hope he, while he's trying to let faster cars by, is able to stay off the marbles. We could see the dark pieces of rubber on the outside of the turns here. They are very, very loose indeed if you can end up out there.
Yeah, but he seems to be letting all the leaders through quite cleanly, so I think he should be okay. Although I probably just cursed him saying that, sorry.
And Adam Hackman looks like he has pitted because he's a lap behind the cars he was fighting just a few moments ago, so that means Equino currently up into 8th. Just a few seconds behind Raoul Jereb. Doing a good job for Pat Patrick here tonight, running 7th at the moment. As Nilsson likewise, despite that spin, running in 6th right now. And only about 30 seconds behind Jason White, so still possibly a top 5 finish in the works for Anders if he's able to run quick enough in the last 20 odd laps.
Indeed, that's quite a good recovery from that spin earlier.
For sure, but that's also, I'd say, one of Anders' strengths, being able to drive consistently and not get too rattled by any unforeseeable troubles that he runs into. And Ray likewise currently running 2nd. I think if he can get 2nd here, he'll be very happy.
Indeed, that'll be a fantastic result if he can keep it together. There's a lot of smoke on the front straight. It's Jakob Fredriksson's gone off again. He's crawling down the front straight without a front wing.
Oh dear, that looks like another hit with a wall coming off of 4. So
Crucially for the championship, though, he's not retired the car just yet, although he spun to the inside.
I think that's more of a case of he just... Oh, he has retired.
He has indeed. So that makes David Jakes the champion for this year.
It does indeed. So let's see how long it takes for David to realise and go hell for leather as he's hinted towards wanting to do.
We'll certainly keep an eye on him, as he's coming through turn 2 at the moment.
So unfortunately a lot of retirees, but everyone doing a good job. Oh dear, we have a bit of a graphical issue for a moment there, but looks like that's sorted. But yeah, so unfortunately for Slapinski, he's done everything he could do, but it was unfortunately for nil, as it is now secure, but he could still...
Oh, and Ray Riddell's crashed in turn 4!
Oh no! Oh, I can't believe it! Oh, that's so unfortunate. Oh, dearie me. Poor Ray.
That's incredibly unlucky. He was having a fantastic run there, but the one positive he can take from that is that there's still a second race to go, which we mustn't forget. And he had very good pace late in the race there. Hopefully he'll be able to put something together for race 2.
Indeed, and it's also... I would suspect that because I noticed Yates was closing in on him, I wouldn't be surprised if Ray was trying to stay ahead of him and unfortunately tried just a bit too hard.
It's quite possible, as David Yates certainly does seem to have picked up the pace a little bit. That elevates Jason White up to 4th place now. He's doing well, just creeping along slowly up the order.
And I think he'll be very, very happy with that. He scored some good points last time out at Milwaukee, and he was very happy with that. I wonder if 4th or even a podium here wouldn't be even sweeter for him. Because there is still time for something to happen up in front of him, as he lets Alberto Quino go. He wants none of that a lap down car battle.
The next guy he needs to worry about is Anders Nilsson, who's nearly 30 seconds behind him.
Indeed. Nilsson has closed in, but not by enough to threaten Jason, as long as he keeps the pace he's been going at so far.
Indeed, and he's only got 12 laps left to do something.
It looks like Equino has some very good pace, taking a position away from Raul Yareb there. They've been fighting for most of this race. Ooh, yes! That looked a bit close, but Equino holds on to 6th position, Raul down to 7th. Hackman unfortunately down in 8th, and doesn't look like he'll be gaining many positions from here. Chacon in 9th, Junt in 10th, Viridol retired in 11th, so looks like Larson Miles in this next lap will climb up into 11th, which I think he'll be quite happy with.
That's a very good good first run here. Especially seeing how many people have thrown the cars off the track today. That's an excellent, consistent drive there.
Indeed. Currently looks like Yates is running a little bit quicker than Slapinski, but I don't think he has enough time in the books to be able to threaten Slapinski entirely here, as Slapinski now laps Larson Miles. Faster engine and sort of car and driver combinations go around this racetrack. win, unfortunately for himself, with 19.5 seconds up to Nilsson in front. I don't think he will get that time back in the 9 laps that they have left in this race, and it looks like the positions more or less in this race is set unless something happens to anyone of our runners.
As we've already seen, we can't take anything for granted, so this is definitely not the time for the drivers to start letting their guard down.
That's certainly true.
Just watching Slapinski go around the track at the moment. That Coyote, now on low fuel, looks absolutely on rails.
Certainly doesn't seem to be any major issues for him at this point in time. And clearly driving that Coyote very well.
Absolutely, as we've already said, he's done, presuming nothing terrible happens in the next few laps, he's done absolutely everything he needed to do this race. Just unfortunately for him, the luck's just not gone his way this time.
Well, there'll certainly be more opportunities in the future, especially with next year we have lined up for Formula 1 1986 and USAC 1978, both of which should be absolutely stonking seasons.
Absolutely, certainly looking forward to those. We've got the DRM Group C cars in there as well.
We do indeed, both the Group C and the Group B, as more sports car, GT car sort of things with the Porsches and BMWs. Which should be a lot of fun. Especially the preparation for such events where you try to work with your teammate or teammates to find a compromise on the setup that works for all the drivers, which sometimes can be quite tricky to make happen.
Absolutely, it's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Watching Brian Yannick looked like he had no pace early on in the race, but not lying in third, so the Detroitian doing a good job tonight, and Jason White likewise taking it easy and careful, and up into fourth he goes. But starting what I think is the final lap is Cesariusz Szlapinski.
I'm not sure. I think it'll be. I think there's 2 laps to go from here, but I'm not 100% on that.
I'll bring up the flag on screen and we'll see what happens as he finishes this lap. Okay, there is one more lap. Never learn with AMS how the lap counter works, I'm afraid.
That's one of the issues with most sims. They all do it slightly differently.
Certainly, but it looks like all the positions are set and done. As we see Szlapinski going through the final turn of this first heat here at Trenton. And as we mentioned so many times, he done everything he needed to do, but it sadly has been in vain as he crosses the finish line to take the win. Behind him, David Yates finishes second and clinches the USAC 1974 championship. So big congratulations to David Yates as Yannick finishes third. Jason White heading towards the finish line to finish fourth in the first heat. He'll be very happy with that, I'm sure. Anders Nilsson finishes fifth with Alberto Equino in sixth. Raul Jereb finishes seventh. Adam Hackman in eighth. Brun Chacon finishes ninth. David Junt finishes 10th. And Ronnie Larson-Miles rounds out our runners in 11th, with Rividol, with that late crash, still picking up the points for 12th place finish. But the winner in this first heat tonight is Slapinski, but the biggest winner of the evening is David Yates, taking the championship, and a great drive through the whole championship from him.
Absolutely, it's been a fantastic drives all round there from all of the drivers who've made it to the finish. As we saw so many cars get fired off into the scenery, certainly not easy. As Jakes now gives us a nice big burnout at pit exit there.
Yes, indeed, and just managed to notice that and get it on screen. Great drive, and understandably so, celebrating with the customary donuts. That is an absolutely great feeling to pick up the championship.
Certainly a very well-deserved win there for David Jakes. He's been quick all season and has been always helpful to everyone in preparation for races. So excellent to see that being rewarded.
Certainly so. And unfortunately there goes a bit of money for the Dick Simon Racing team, but I don't think they mind at this very moment in time.
No doubt, considering the large cheque that's probably already on its way from USAC, I don't think they'll be too upset about that.
So the race ended as it did. Let's see if there's any possibility.
User joined your channel.
Here comes Jason White, actually. Congratulations on your fourth place finish, Jason.
Oh, and we have to do it again. Man, that was a lot of fun. I want to be the first among the drivers to congratulate Jakes on winning the USAC National Championship. Fantastic series from him all year long, and congratulations also to Cesarius. He won the battle, but unfortunately the war goes to David. But I got really lucky in this race because I kind of fluffed the start. I was 7th in the grid and kind of dropped back to like 13th, 14th, and then eventually took advantage of OPP. And then as I moved up, the right front was just starting to turn red, and I was just like, I don't know how much more I can deal with this, and so I had to like relearn how to drive the car with a right front that was useless. And then by some miracle, just a few laps before I was ready to come into the pits, the yellow comes out, and I'm like, thank you, God! so I dove in, made my single stop, and got out just in front of that Oldsmobile. So very lucky, very fortuitous race, and looking forward to going one more time after this, and I get a nice primo spot in the grid, which is nice.
Yeah, I noticed that was quite fortunate for you, that safety car, but hey ho.
That's how oval racing goes sometimes, and God knows I've been on the receiving end of some bad safety car luck this year, so I'll take it.
Very understandable. As David Yates looks like he's ready to talk to us, would you please pull him in here, Jason?
Certainly.
User was moved to your channel.
Hey Dave, congratulations on the National USAC Championship here.
Thank you very much. Oh, it is, and I promise all the champagne I'm spraying, I'm not drinking any of it for the sec because I got to do the second heat. So
you got more work to do there. Well, good job, David.
Thank you. That was an interesting race to say the least. I don't think I've ever had to dodge so many cars before. Even on pit road, that was I'd like to see the replay. I don't think there was much clearance on either side of my car.
Now we caught that on the broadcast. You can watch it back afterwards. Certainly looked tight from where I was watching it, and Dave noticed it was even tighter than I thought. So
I knew Alberto said debris on pit lane, but the fuel was low. I had to come in,
User
and
left your channel.
it was definitely debris on the pit lane. He was right.
we were discussing whether it would be a good thing to tell the drivers, and clearly it was, because
I would have come in an extra 20, 30 mile an hour faster than I did, and even what I did was too fast, the way it was debris strewn around there.
indeed. Well then, considering the championship is secured for you now, what are your plans for the second race?
We're going to turn the boost up and see how long the engine holds together.
Fair enough. It looks like Cesarius would like to have a word with us. Let's see if we can get him in.
Yeah, he had a really good race. His pace was untouchable there.
Let's see if Jason has time and is able to see that. If not, then apologies to Cesar, but we'll talk to you after the second race, if not this time. Depends how busy Jason is, as he's the main admin for this series and will be setting the grid. But yeah, we also have, even though we have one more race tonight, we have one more race coming up. I suppose with the weight off the shoulders, you'll just be driving for fun for that final race, or what do you think?
Well, yeah, don't have to stress so much. Like, I wasn't necessarily conservative in that race, but I was definitely puckering a little extra with, anytime I saw a spun car or some debris on the track, it was a little much to take. So that'll be nice. Don't have to worry about that so much anymore. Can just drive and see what we got, like the whole season pretty much.
For sure. Well, considering we are waiting for the second race, let's actually have a look at a trivia question and also what is coming up. So let's look at what's coming up here at ISO to finish out our racing year, more or less. I believe we have one more Lucas Vidra Trophy race to try and get in somewhere along the way. But Sunday, November the 29th, which will be in 2 weeks from now, we have the Foster's Australian Grand Prix, the final round of the F1 91 Championship, and the championship is still up for grabs for Dave Miller. And if anything were to befall Dave during the race, the championship is still also open for Pascal Mikla, who is currently leading that championship. And after that, we have the Arizona 150 from the Phoenix International Raceway, I think the Phoenix track is called, for the final round of this championship. And to get to that trivia question, let's see where I have that laying around. There we have it. So the question for you, which you can ponder while we look at Jason's keys for the race, for the second race, which I forgot to bring up. The question for you will be, who won the last USAC sanctioned IndyCar race held at Trenton on October 23rd, 1978? Was it A, Bobby Unser? Was it B, Mario Andretti? Or was it the brother Unser, Al? Which is option C. I'll let you both ponder that for a little bit while we...
I'm horrible at these trivias. I'm just guessing.
Fair enough, so am I, for the most part. So Jason's keys to the race, which I didn't have time to bring up before the first race, is to go for balance over raw speed, which we saw some drivers having trouble in the dogleg, which could very well be because they didn't quite have the balance in the car. To remember that it's 2 races, so don't burn yourself out before race number 2, which may have happened to Jukka Märtinen considering how loose his car was for a while. But we'll have to see about that. And 3, and possibly the most important one out of these, respect the dog leg. Which we also
No
see
doubt.
drivers having trouble there.
Throw another one on there now after the first heat went down is whether to 1 stop or 2 stop. I think there were a couple there. I think Coxon I saw, I'm not sure if there were more, but looked like they were going for a 2 stop strategy, which might have worked out if it stayed green because the tires fell off quite a bit at the end of the run. But with the yellow there, I think that wrecked that strategy a little bit for him.
For sure. That certainly seemed to be the case.
Well, I'll leave you to it. I'm going to go prepare for the second heat. Thank you very much for the broadcast.
Certainly, certainly.
This should be an interesting race because there were a lot of cars with pace in the first heat and run into issues. So hopefully lessons can be learned and we'll have a larger field get to the finish line and competitive race here.
Certainly looked like a lot of cars had pace. Best of luck and congratulations once again on clinching the championship.
Thank you very much. Feels great. Champagne's on ice for later.
Understandable.
All right, take care. Appreciate the broadcast. Catch you next time.
No problems.
User left your channel.
So that's our championship in the series. David Yates heading on to prepare for the second race. So let's see, I wonder how long we actually have. So let me just have a quick look at what is being said. 15 minutes. Okay, so before we actually do the trivia question, I will put on a commercial, a bit of a commercial run for you all to watch, and when we're back we'll look at a trivia question and head into the second race of the evening here at Trenton International Raceway.
To get the most mileage from a new set of tires, you'd treat them right from the start. We didn't do that. First, we ran a set of Sears steel-belted radials on the toughest back roads in Morocco. Then we put them on American roads. 72,400 miles later, they're still going strong. The Sears steel-belted radial, it can take a lot and still go a long,
Yep,
long way.
I'll do the same.
Radial design, 2 steel belts. The Sears steel-belted radial, only at Sears.
Now comes Miller time. Suddenly, you're the 3 best sailors on the water. And that calls for a round of the best-tasting beer you can find. Miller High Life, America's quality beer since 1855.
If you've got the time, we've got the beer. Miller Beer.
Sometimes your future may be captured in a single moment, in the present.
We're helping 40 million people, more than 40 million people, who know the future is now. That metropolitan life
At Metropolitan Life, we've spent over a century helping people prepare for the future. Metropolitan Life, where the future is now.
The colors in the XL100 are really alive.
These TV cameramen rate RCA XL100 solid-state color TVs.
I like the realistic color on the RCA XL100, like the blue of the Dodger baseball caps against a green background.
The color on the RCA XL100 really jumps out at you.
More senior TV cameramen own RCA than any other color TV.
The color in the XL100 makes you feel like you're right down here on the field.
RCA XL100. Don't settle for less.
What should shock absorbers do? Absorb shocks. That's why we put Sears Steady Riders on these stunt cars. They're the shocks built for comfort, control, and a steady ride on any road in any weather. Ask Joey Chitwood.
The Steady Rider? They named it right.
The Steady Rider. Sold only at Sears.
Now comes Miller time. The longest 6 seconds of your life just turned out to be the quickest quarter mile of the day. So head for the best tasting beer you can find. Miller High Life, America's quality beer since 1855.
If you got the time, if you got the time, we've got the beer.
If the gasoline shortage has got you scared, partner, get a horse. Your Ford dealer has 3 little thoroughbreds named Pinto, Maverick, and Mustang too. They're easy riders, dependable and economical. The base Pinto gets over 20 miles to the gallon. And these days, that ain't hay. So see your Ford dealer and saddle up. Get a Pinto, Maverick, Mustang too. But brother, get a horse.
This is J.C. Penney's $10 dress shirt. It's made of silky, smooth Ultressa polyester, a fabric many $14 shirts are made of. It has a special collar that feels soft but stays in shape, a feature many $16 shirts have. It has 7 buttons instead of 6, so that it won't pop open at the waist, a feature some $20 shirts don't even have. The J.C. Penney $10 dress shirt, probably one of the most expensively made $10 dress shirts in America.
When someone needs help at sea, they can't wait. Yeah, you're a volunteer, so you answer the call. You know, you only go around once. And for you, it's a gusto life when you can beat the sea and laugh about it later.
Come around, take the gusto life's giving. Come around, taste the gusto of Schlitz.
99 years is a long time to be brewing beer. You sure get to know a lot about bottles. But what's more important, you get to know a lot about brewing beer. And 4 generations of brewing skill, tradition, and dedication to quality go into every Olympia beer. Which is why we say, you owe yourself an Oli.
You owe yourself the best beer in the land.
Olympia. Beer doesn't get any better.
To get the most mileage from a new set of tires, you'd treat them right from the start. We didn't do
I'm George Montgomery. This is my game room. The furniture you see, I made. You know, I used to shine it with paste wax, but now I use new Pledge. Pledge now has key ingredients found in Johnson paste wax to give rubbed-in paste wax beauty instantly. Doesn't that wood grain look great? Now, if that isn't paste wax beauty, I'm not George Montgomery. Remember, now you get the rubbed-in beauty of paste wax instantly every time you dust with new Pledge.
Fred, I told you, you dance the merengue all night, you get a headache.
Oh.
You eat 5 enchiladas with chili sauce, you get a heartburn.
Oh.
I'll give you some Alka-Seltzer.
When you have upset stomach with headache or body aches and pains, Alka-Seltzer has antacids and specially buffered aspirin for quick relief.
The Alka-Seltzer worked.
Good. We've got another party tonight.
Oh.
Look up, America, see what we've got. There in the sunny side of living. Look for the best, yeah, live life refreshed. Look for the real thing. Like Coca-Cola.
No country's got more good things than we've got, including the world's best drink to help us enjoy them all. So have a Coke and start looking up.
It's the real thing. It's the real thing.
The Wishbone Backyard Barbecue. For people who like good food, good friends, and good fun. For them, Wishbone Italian Dressing. It takes a very special blend to make a dressing with real Italian flavor. And that blending secret made Wishbone Italian America's favorite salad dressing. Wishbone Italian. For people who really like salads.
Meet Mr. Finnegan.
One burger, rare on the inside, but charred outside.
Burn one.
He's seldom satisfied.
Just a trim, please.
And often disappointed.
Oh, with hydraulic lifters or solid lifters?
Solid. It's solid.
Well, thanks anyway.
We were glad when Mr. Finnegan chose Prudential for life insurance, and especially pleased when he came back. The fact is, more people come back to Prudential for another piece of the rock than ever get started with most other life insurance companies. 5 out of every 10 policies we write are for people who already have a piece of the rock.
When I find something I like, I stick with it. But don't you let up Prudential.
When you think about your financial security, see a Prudential agent. Come to a company that people come back to.
Get a piece of the rock.
Prudential Insurance.
To get the most mileage from a new set of tires,
Okay, there we are. We are back live here at the track. We have 9.5 minutes of pre-race warm-up for the second race, and we are looking at the trivia question that I asked you about 15 minutes ago now, I'd assume. So, and obviously I'm still joined in the booth by David Miller.
Good evening once again. Yes, it's an interesting one.
For sure, a very interesting first race with a few surprising offs and a few a few expected offs, I suppose one could say, and some very impressive and great drives along the way.
Absolutely, we saw plenty of cars being fired at the scenery, showing just how difficult this circuit is, but equally some very good, very consistent drives and some good action, certainly early on in the race.
For sure. And apologies, I'm just trying to sort out something I remembered I needed to do here. But yeah, obviously, suppose the most impressive drive in that race was Cesare Shlapinski picking up the win exactly when he needed to do it. And very impressive in doing so.
Indeed, it was a pretty much flawless drive. I didn't see him put a wheel wrong anywhere, which was, as we said, what he needed to do.
And also a very impressive drive, both from Brun Chacon finishing, I believe he finished 9th in the end, and Ronnie Larson-Miles, his countryman, finishing 11th in the RAS car. Two very impressive drives as well, although not at the very front of the field, but in the points.
Absolutely, they put on a decent showing for themselves. You know, they were put us at a reasonable pace and kept the car on the track, which is the most important thing.
Indeed, and as we saw, some people were unable to do so and were punished immediately. But yeah, while I load back onto the server, let's go at that trivia question. So, just to remind you, who won the last USAC sanctioned IndyCar race held at Trenton on September 23rd, 1978? Was it A, Bobby Unser, B, Mario Andretti, or C, Al Unser? Do you have any knowledge or guesses on this one, Dave?
Well, I certainly don't have much knowledge on these, but I'll take a guess at B.
Then, congratulations, Dave. You've answered it correctly. It is indeed B, Mario Andretti, who won the last USAC sanctioned IndyCar race at Trenton. So that's one that we should keep a lookout for in the next year's USAC series, whether the history repeats itself with the Mario Andretti car picking up the win there.
Indeed, that'll certainly be one to look forward to. So I think it'll be a very exciting season for IndyCars. Next year's will be running a slightly longer calendar, 18 races, and we've got the free road courses in there as well, which will be very interesting to watch, I think.
That's certainly one of those things that I'm really looking forward to, because obviously these oval monsters never went to road courses as such, but would be very, very interesting to watch them. Brands Hatch, and I believe it's Silverstone. Brands Hatch for certain would be very, very interesting to watch with the undulation and stuff.
Yes, and it's the short circuit as well, where it gets its name Indy from.
Oh, that's even more interesting. I didn't know that was why it was called the Indy Circuit.
Yeah, that's because it was the one used for the IndyCar races, and also 70 Silverstone. Well, that's exciting in any car, and I think it'll be particularly interesting in late 70s IndyCars with the long straights and fast corners. Mustn't forget we'll also have Mosport Park in there as well, which is a fantastic little circuit up in Canada.
I personally don't like it as a driver. I've never had a good opportunity there, but it's certainly a very good, very, very nice little circuit to watch racing at, so that's something I'm certainly looking forward to as well. Another similar to Brands Hatch, I suppose one could say, with a lot of an undulation, quick corners, and not much room for error.
Yeah, you could almost think of it like a stretched out Brands Hatch.
But possibly a little bit quicker than Brands in terms of the top speeds you get up to.
Yes, you've got quite a long back straight there where the cars will be getting probably some quite high speeds. And then into a fast right-hander, slowing down all the way through a series of S's.
I reckon that if you took the wings off these USAC cars, they would probably fly coming over the crest on that back straight.
Quite possibly, and we may well see a few cars doing that. We'll have to wait and see.
Indeed. And then we obviously also have the 1986 F1 Championship, a year that saw Senna in the Lotus. We had Prost and Berger, I believe, in the McLaren. No, sorry, not Berger in the McLaren.
It was Alan Jones, I believe. I want to say.
No, Alan Jones. It was in the American
No, it was
car.
no, of course, it was Keke Rosberg. I'm thinking of.
Oh, Keke Rosberg, indeed. So Prost and Rosberg in the McLarens, and I believe it was Mansell in the Williams, along with.
It was Mansell and Piquet at Williams.
Piquet, indeed, and with Ferrari. I can't actually remember which drivers were in the Ferraris that year.
Ferrari, I think it might have been Alboreto and someone else who I can't quite remember right now.
Well, Alboreto certainly rings a bell, so that's probably right. And then we also, of course, had Lafitte and the other Ligier driver was... Now I'm disappointed in myself for having such a bad memory of names. I believe it was with the Ferrari the year previous, but got kicked like one round in or something. Anyway, as you can hear, a lot of very good race car drivers in that year, and a lot of good race cars, and obviously the big turbo 1.5 liter turbocharged engines producing up towards 1300. I think the highest power anyone ever got out of those was just over 1400 bhp, which is absolutely ridiculous looking at it in today's figures.
Indeed, and just to answer the question, the number 2 at Ferrari was Stefan Johansson, and it was René Arnoux in the other Ligier.
I think I'll go and commit Harikari for not remembering Stefan Johansson was in the second Ferrari. That's a big oof on my part. Although I can at least claim that I wasn't born when the series ran, so I at least have that going for me. And unfortunately, the series was available on YouTube, but for whatever reason, FOM decided to take it down, so that's why I hadn't picked up enough memories of it yet, so to know what was what with that. Anyway, a lot of stuff to look forward to next season. For sure. As I can see, the timer has just run down to 0, so the second race is just about to begin. And there we go. Signal for the drivers to head onto the parade lap and get ready for the second race. And what do you think, Dave? What will we see in the second race, considering what we saw in the first?
I have a feeling we're going to see quite a good race here between Ślepinski and Jakes. As we've been saying, Jakes now has, well, it's all over now, so everyone's just driving for pride, but I think there'll be quite a few good battles here, as there's now nothing on the line except that one race glory, so we will see.
Certainly possible that we'll get to see that. So Serge Ślepinski, thanks to his win in the first race, starts on pole for AJ Foyt Enterprises. David Yates for Dick Simon Racing, our newly crowned champion, lines up second. Brian Yannick starts third for Robert L. Fletcher, with Jason White starting fourth for Vel Spinelli Jones Racing Team. Anders Nilsson starts fifth, with Alberto Quino for Roger Penske in sixth. Raoul Jareb starts seventh for Pat Patrick, with Adam Hackman in eighth. Brun Chacon starts in ninth, with David Jund starting 10th. Ronnie Larson Mile starts 11th, with Ray Riddall starting in 12th. 13th starting is Jakob Fröksen with Peter Lavac in 14th. Jukka Martin in 15th with Mikael Drexler, looks to be starting from the pits in 16th. 17th for Richard Coxon and 18th for Jules Bouchard. 19th for Juha Bors with 20th for David Saber. Alberto Ibanez, I believe, is our final runner, starting from 21st.
I think something else that'll be worth watching out for. We've got some very quick guys towards the back of the grid in Richard Coxon and Juha Martin, and it'll be interesting to see how they come through the field.
Oh, for sure. I believe especially Jukka Martinen showed some very, very good pace, leading for a while, for a bit of the opening race, and obviously Coxon was up there fighting for positions as well. As the green flag looks to be out and the race is underway, second heat here at Trenton, and Slapinski immediately leaps into the lead.
Oh, and already a big accident in turn 1.
Oh no! Let's see if we can find it. There it is. Oh, it's Anders Nilsson. No! So let's see what happened to him now that we have replays available on the broadcast. Starting from what I believe was 5th position. Oh, he got hit up the rear into the inside barriers and then hard into the outside barriers, and that's a very quick and unfortunate retirement for him. But the race is still green. That's incredible with that big of an accident. I'm not sure exactly who he was hit by, but it was one of the red-looking cars. But either way, the race is still green, and Slapinski is under attack from David Yates straight away.
A little bit further back, Jukka Mattinen's already on the move. He's already up to 7th from 15th.
Oh, and someone has spun up in front. It looks like that's David Yates. It is. Oh,
doesn't look like he's hit anything.
Well. So we have 2 spinners in that last corner. Let's look at David Yates first. Let's see, he gets in. Oh, he got into the dirt, yeah, then got out of it again and span towards the inside of the track. And let's see if we can find what happened to Jules Bouchard. He span even earlier. Oh, he's being passed by, that's Richard Coxon. And it looks like he is on a line he's not used to, and that's unfortunately enough for Jules Bouchard as well, and he is a retirement, unfortunately.
That's another man on the moves, David Yunt. He's already up to 3rd place from 10th and challenging for 2nd with Brian Yannick.
Wow, so a lot of quick movers, and Martin up to 5th from his starting position of, did you say 15th? That's absolutely
yes.
incredible. And David Yunt likewise, that's a very impressive start, right in behind Brian Yannick. And see what else we have in the top 10 now that
Jason White's doing
is moving. So Slapinski leading, Yannick 2nd, Yunt in 3rd, White 4th, just about ahead of Martinen, with Fröksen in 6th, 7th for Raoul Jereb, 8th for Alberto Quino. Adam Hackman is 9th, and currently 10th is Ray Riddle, although he has Peter Lavac around its outside, trying to look for the position. And right behind him looks to be Richard Coxon, actually diving up the inside of Lavac there and up into 11th. So some very quick changes in positions here. And Martin now up into 4th. The whole field looks to be somewhere in the 7th to probably 14th, 15th position now. Whereas there's a lot of jockeying for positions there in the dogleg. Everyone looks to have taken their silk gloves on and put on their iron gloves with the way they are fighting for positions at the moment. Coxon now up into 8th, so despite all the cars he had around him, he moved up to make that 3 positions that lap.
fantastic opening few laps for quite a few drivers there.
Indeed, and Ibanez also up into 12th already. It's another quick mover. As Slapinski already into the 34 zeros. That's a very impressive pace early on here. Oh, and David Yates with a loose moment in the dogleg. Looks like he may have even hit the barrier. What he did is slam the right rear against the barrier by the looks of things. So good thing he clinched the championship earlier here.
Certainly we'll have to keep an eye on him, as we saw with Martinen in the last race. A good hit on the wall can really destabilise these cars.
Indeed, and Slapinski with a big loose moment coming through 3 and 4 that time. As it looks like the battle is on for second with Yannick still with David Juntin behind him. I thought that was one of the cars behind that caught up, but that was Jules Bourgeois being lapped. Looks like Martin has gapped Fredriksson in the meantime.
I think Junt's being quite clever here. He doesn't seem to be attacking Yannick very particularly hard, and that's allowing them to close up on Slapinski, working together like that.
Junt has certainly showed that he's a very cunning driver on these ovals, so I'm not overly surprised that he's got some kind of understanding of what he's wanting to do.
Indeed, I don't think he's quite got the ultimate pace that some of the other drivers do have, but he's a very clever, very consistent driver, so you can never count him out in whatever he's in.
That's certainly true. It looks like that's sort of where the action is at the moment, so it's actually jump on board David Junt's car for a lap or two here. Watch him follow Brian Yannick and see if they both can close on Slapinski up in front in that Coyote. This is interesting. I believe that's a Coyote, Eagle and a McLaren running 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
Yes, Slapinski has the Coyote, Brian Yannick's in an Eagle 72, and David Junt's in the McLaren M16B.
Clearly showing this is a pretty good equalizer track for all of the different makes of cars. But a driver looks to be able to do quite a bit of difference in how fast the whole package travels along these 1.5 miles.
Indeed, it's 1.5 mile track, which is fairly common to see certainly these days, but it's certainly not one of your modern day cookie cutter ovals. That can definitely be said.
Certainly. I suppose you could say that this is more of a ballet dancers track rather than a all-out racers track.
With the banking being what it is, and with that dog leg, you need to be very precise on your inputs, because these cars will snap on you very quickly if you don't respect them.
Which we have seen a little bit of already in both this and the previous race. And as we saw there riding aboard David Junt, Yannick had a bit of running a little bit deep into 4 and 5 there, and lost a bit of momentum on the entry, but squared the corner up, made it more of a wedge in terms of how we took it, gained the time back by the looks of things towards the exit. Well, Matanen now lapping, I believe, that Mikael Drexler, with Fredriksson 5th, Coxon 6th, White now 7th, having dropped behind Coxon, and he is now under attack from Adam Hackman, as Coxon has a loose moment there. That could be the opportunity for the guys behind to get past once again, but doesn't happen. But Coxon had a very bad exit there.
That was a very big moment. That will have definitely got his attention.
I suppose it's one of those where you go to the dry cleaners afterwards, asking them to sort your gear out.
Yeah, that'll be a change of tyres and a fresh pair of overalls at the next pit stop. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Yannick and Junt working together seems to be paying off. They're within a second of Slipinski now.
Looks like they are in the draft now, so this could be a very interesting three-car fight for the lead. Another few laps.
Using every bit of the track you can see coming out of turn 5 there, right up to the wall. So important to get the fastest lap times.
It's interesting to see the different styles they are using. I noticed Slapinski is changing down to third for the first turn. From what I heard, David Junt is using third both in the final turn and at turn 1. While Yannick, from what I've heard so far, riding forward with him for just a couple of laps, sounded like he was in fourth all the way.
It looks like Junt's keeping it in fourth, at least while he's in the draft. But yes, Slipinski's definitely changing down for turn 1 and 2.
That's just the way that engine in the McLaren is sounding, but it did sound like it was changing gears earlier, so interesting. But now Slapinski pulled away a little bit again. Yannick had a bad 4.5 there, and immediately drops quite a bit of time. And White now dropped another position to Ray Riddle, so Jason White down to 8th. And Hackman still on the prowl. With Alberto Quino not too far behind, neither is Alberto Ibanez. And Yates in the meantime up into 12th. So let's see if we may get to see another father and son battle here, a la Al and me and names. Well, senior and junior in the Unser family anyway.
Indeed, junior's ahead at the moment, but senior will be looking to get through quite soon, I think.
Certainly looks that way. I'd assume that Parnelli is a little bit faster in a straight line than that McLaren that Equino is behind the wheel of. As we can see, the senior pulled past down the straight.
Yeah, I believe that senior's definitely got a 74 spec car. I think junior's in a 72 spec McLaren there. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, that's a bit of a handicap, so maybe not as surprising then. But it's sort of interesting that Penske starting in McLarens, and then would that be 4 years later in '78? They were already creating their own machines and being quite successful at it.
I'm not certain, but I know they were building their own cars, or at least having their own cars built for them for quite a long time.
I know they did so in '88, and I believe they also did in '78. So somewhere in between '74 and '78, I reckon they started building or calling for their own cars to be built.
Oh, and looks like Klavic has had a moment somewhere. He's driving down the front straight with no wings.
Yep, looks like turn 4-5 is the place where the trouble happened. I noticed some tire marks and wings and debris on the outside of the track. Let's see if we can possibly catch what happened. Oh, that looks like a loose moment coming through the dog leg, running in behind Juha Boos. Oh, just as he is preparing to turn into 4 and 5, the car got a little bit loose on him while he was still pointing right, and unfortunately out of control it went into the barriers, but at least still running. But obviously with a long pit stop for repairs to come.
There's a lot of smoke coming out the back of Adam Hackman's car through turn 2. I think that's an engine failure.
Oh no, surely not. Certainly looks like it, but surely not. Well, he's pulling to the inside of the track. That could only mean that that is indeed the case. With a bit of humor, I hope he brought some marshmallows with him. See on the border with his car. Looks like it went just as he started to head into turn 1 there. So very unfortunate, but again one of those things that can happen. As we saw for a couple of drivers in the first race as well. Looks like Schlapinski has put his head down in the end and pulled away from the duo behind him. Now leading by 3 seconds.
Indeed, nudging 200 miles an hour at the end of the straight there. That Coyote is certainly looking quick.
You gotta say that AJ Foyt knew what he was doing when he was building cars as well. And Slavach now heads out to the pit lane after his lengthy repairs.
Just for comparison, Brian Yannick was just breaching 192 miles an hour at the end of the straight there, in second place.
That's quite the difference.
Yeah, Spinski was about 196, 197.
Well, certainly an advantage to have. It's one of the preferable advantages any race driver has, I think, a quick car in a straight line, especially at the end of the straight where the passing is most likely to take place on a road course.
Absolutely, it doesn't matter what you do or what setup you do. If the car's quick in a straight line, it's always quick in a straight line.
Indeed, as with all laps Buchard. Now Jason White, despite the lap difference, he's still running with Bruno Chacon. It's one of those things with these oval races, it looks like, for those two. They always near each other one way or another. And Jason's teammate having a good race so far, running in 9th at the moment, just a few seconds behind Jason himself.
Indeed, just behind Alberto there is David Jakes on his recovery.
Quite so, looks like he's taking it a little bit easy right now, just trying to get the tyres to the end of the stint. I'd assume he's going for a one-stop again, and with that spin he should probably need to take care of the tyres, since they will have taken a beating from that spin to begin with.
You'll probably be thinking that there's a fairly good chance that at some point there'll be a caution flag in this race, and that'll close that gap back to the leaders, so that's probably what he's hoping for.
It's certainly a possibility. If it happened in the first race, it could very well happen here. And it's nice to see David Saber still running. He's been having a few unfortunate events as of late, but he did finish in the points in Suzuka, I believe, so that's a step in the right direction, and hopefully he'll be able to finish here in the points and score a few points for this championship as well, to finish out the year in a good way and get himself set up for next year.
Certainly hope so. He's definitely one driver who is deserving of a good finish.
Indeed, and he's one of the ISO modding team who works on the shapes that you can see here. For example, I know it was him and Jason White who did most of the models for this 1974 championship, and I believe both of them worked on the 78 championship, so we can be sure that if either of them is involved, the cars will look very nice. Very nice indeed.
Absolutely, and based on the previews we've seen on the forum so far, it looks like they've outdone themselves again this time.
For sure.
In the field, David Jakes has gotten past Alberto Ibanez now, and he's running 9th. Slowly reeling in Jason White for 8th.
He's certainly showing that he is one of the fastest guys in this series. Even with a spin, he still has some pace in the car and moving up and getting further into the points. Oh, and Jason White very wide in 5 and strikes the wall on the outside. Hopefully no major damage done, but we'll have to wait and see in a lap or two's time to see what damage has been done to his Parnelli. And obviously, with it being 2 races, it could be now that we're reaching near halfway in this second 150-mile race, that attrition and driver tiredness will take effect.
Certainly possible, as David Jakes having a look up the inside of Jason White. Can't quite get it done in turn 1. He'll look to get the run out of turn 2 and through the kink now.
Ooh, looks like he got a little bit loose though. Let's see, he is looking up the inside, but I think that's Jake's preferred line, as is Jason's a little bit wider on entry line. But David clearly able to keep a tighter line towards the exit. That should give him a better run down the straight. And here he goes, up the inside, side by side, and that should be the position done and dusted. Certainly looks so, so Jakes now up into 8th.
And David jumps into the pits for what looks like a routine stop.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if he feels that he can do 60 odd laps in one go without trouble, and that's why he's pitting now, or maybe he felt he was being held up, so he feels that he wants to pit now, try to make a bit of use of the new tires and just live with it for the end of the race.
It's possible he might be able to go until the end at this point on the fuel, but whether the tyres will survive, that's a different question. But we'll see.
Indeed, and it looks like he has dropped to effective 3rd, so where he pitted is where he comes out in terms of road position, but obviously a lap down to the leading pair.
Oh, and there's one of the leader card races backwards in turn 4.
And that's Robert L. Fletcher, that's Michael Drexler behind the wheel.
Apologies, yes, the one of the Fletcher cars.
Let's see, that's turn 4-5. That's another, yep, that's another loose moment coming through the dog leg. The car got loose just like it did for Lavage was it who crashed there, I think, a few laps
Oh,
ago.
and Jules Bouchard's blown his engine coming out of turn 5 as well.
Oh no, and it looks like he has more damage as well. So I wonder what happened there. Let's see if we can find out. Out in the marbles. Oof! Well, that's not a blown engine, that's a very heavy crash indeed. That's the car breaking loose on the marbles, and Bouchard slightly overcorrecting the slide that was on, and straight up into the outside barrier he goes. Very unfortunate, but I suppose we could take the positive that he at least didn't take anyone else with him. That's just one of those things in racing, unfortunately. Sometimes you try, and sometimes you try just a bit too hard. Oh, and there's another spinner, it looks like. Yes, it is. I wonder who that... that was a red car. Could that be Jarell,
It's
maybe?
Raul Ureb.
Well, that's unfortunate for the Patrick Racing team. Let's see if we can find out what happened. Oh, trying to pinch the car a bit too much on the exit of 4. Oh, and then... so unfortunately he pinched the car a bit too much towards the inside. Got a bit of a slide, was able to hold it, but then... for whatever reason, the car broke loose again as he was trying to put the power on, so that's very unfortunate, and it looks like he's been given a stop-go for some reason. Not entirely sure what that would be for.
He was crawling around on the barrier, going through the dog leg in round 3 and 4. Sorry, 4 and 5, but I'm not sure where that came from.
I wonder if that's the game maybe calling it a wall ride?
Maybe, or some kind of off track, or who knows.
Could be. And for anyone not sim racing acquainted, a wall ride is in some mods and some games you can actually ride along or touch a wall and not pick up damage but gain speed. And that's something some games has things to stop from happening. But not sure what that was all about, to be fair, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see. Ślepinski now has an 8-second lead, so Ślepinski doing exactly what he did in the first race, romping away with it. And Yannick doing a very good job so far, sitting in second here in the second race, and Matanen the same, having a great start and then sticking to it in third.
And here comes David Jakes into the pits.
There he is, so into the pits he goes for what would be a 52 lap stint for the second half of the race. I think that should very much be doable. I'm not so sure about David Junt's strategy though.
Absolutely, he's going for the one stop, which is probably the optimal strategy. David Yunt, I reckon, looking at that, probably can make it to the end, but it's going to be particularly tricky towards the end, I would say. But we will see.
I suppose he'll be effectively running on soap, graphically speaking. It looks like Jason White is now actually under attack from Unia. So Jason White has lost out to his teammate, and now the Roger Penske Racing team driver is looking to take away 8th from the American.
And Here comes another one for the pits. Looks like it might be Fredrickson now out of 4th place.
It is indeed. So that's right on point for a half strategy. When right behind Equino and White was the leader of the race, Schlapinski, but it looked like he nipped off into the pit lane as well.
That he did. Comes up to his box.
And Yannick follows him in.
Stops nicely on his marks. The crew go to work.
And Ferguson just in time gets out just behind Brian Yannick there. That could have been very close if there was another second in it. So let's see if Ryan's pit crew is any quicker down at Robert L. Fletcher compared to AJ Foyt. Oh, it is! Yannick out of the pits. Can he beat Schlapinski out? He does! Brian
That's a
Yannick
fantastic,
beats Schlapinski out of the pits.
fantastic stop for Yannick there. I don't know if he only took 2 tyres or not, but that was a very quick stop compared to Schlapinski.
Right, just as they come out of the pits, they end up right in the middle of the battle for 6th and 7th. I don't think that's what Schlapinski was hoping for when he pitted right now. End up right in that battle.
Ray Riddell in the pits now for his stop.
Oof. That was a big dive, but Schlapinski made it work. Fortunately for him, Jason White saw him coming, otherwise that could have been a very big crash. So Ray into the pit lane as well. Looks like he is out in 11th at the moment. Ferguson 10th, Junt in 9th. Just sliding past, that's Peter Lavach. No, sorry, David Saber, that is 48. All-American Racers car. When now Saber gets him back, as I believe that was someone else in the pits. Could that have been Jason White? No, Alberto Bagneth then? No? And now I saw Jonatan into the pits. As is
Richard Coxon.
Oh, and there comes Alberto Bagneth in the background as well. Oh, a very tight exit there for Matanen. Getting out behind that's Lavach's car. So Lavach unfortunately has decided to park the car rather than try to run it to the end, which I suppose can be understandable since he hit the barriers quite hard. And here comes David Junt in behind Matanen. This is very important. Junt pitted early to try and take advantage, but looks like he has lost out with that, as Matanen is out in front of him. Matanen was behind him before the stops. Quite a sizable gap as well.
Looks like Junt's lost a bit of time through that stop, as Juha Boss makes his stop.
And Jason White running long is up into 3rd.
Oh, and there's confusion in the pit lane. David Saber appears to have missed his pit. He's reversing up the line.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
I see him and Juha came in together, so there may have been a bit of confusion between the two there.
Let's see if we can possibly find out what happened here. Aha! I think I can see the problem. Juha Boss was running very slow across the pit stops, and I think he obscured David Saber's view of where his pit box was. So that's why Saber missed his pit box.
Jason White making his stop as well now.
There he is, so 9th at the moment. Looks like he's taking 4 new tires and a bit of gas, and he loses out to his teammate, but looks like he will be out in 10th. Maybe not, because there comes Alberto Quino and gets by him, so 11th for Jason White coming out of the pits.
So now the battle for the lead is on with just over 40 laps to go, with Brian Yannick just ahead of Slipinski looking up the inside. And goes through down the straight. Does he hold it? Looks like he can.
Looks like a very similar move to the one he put on White a little while ago, and Yannick saw him coming and let him by. But that's a very dangerous way to pass, but Sierpinski made it work once again. I'll notice also the battle for sixth is on between Ray Riddle and Richard Coxon. Robert L. Fletcher against Walmart. Sorry, Walmotor. Walmart is a completely different thing than Walmotor, so... Oops.
And look who's just behind them. It's David Jakes.
Very impressive indeed to see him close up. Well, it looks like Coxon has made that pass more or less stick on Ray for now, so let's see what David can do about those two in a few laps time. Ferguson currently in 5th with Junt in 4th. Just a little bit behind Matten in 3rd. He himself trying to lap Jason White, that is in a number 5 Panelli car. And looks like Sierpinski is gapping Yannick at the moment. So the biggest loser out of the pit stops, I'd say, is David Saber, 20 seconds down on Bors. And in 13th position, so out of the points.
Very unfortunate with that little mistake there, just missing his pit box.
And about a lap behind him is Brun Chacon and the Lindsay Hopkins Riley. And Ronnie Larson Miles still running currently 15th in the Ellon Rasmussen RAS car.
Just like in the first race, he's just plodding around at his own pace, running his own race and keeping out of trouble, which is very good to see.
Very much so, and very much correct way to do things to begin with. Get situated, get used to the cars, and even more so the drivers you're racing with, and learn their behaviors, and then as you get more used to that, you can try to pick up your own pace and actually get more into the racing stuff, running side by side. Let's take a lap or two here, riding on board with David Yates, seeing what he's seeing and see if he can close in anymore on Ray Riddle and Richard Coxon ahead of him. Looks like Yates' brush with the wall in the dogleg is slightly causing issues for his car. Doesn't look like it's quite up to snuff compared to what it was in race 1. Certainly looks like he can keep the car on track, but not able to make any inroads. And David Junt now has lost out to Jakob Fredriksson, so Junt down to 5th, Fredriksson up to 4th. So I wonder if Junt made a mistake somewhere, or if his tyres are starting to hurt.
I think that may well be the case. They're going to be about at least 10-15 laps older than everyone else is at the moment.
I believe he stopped on lap 40, so his tyres is are almost 30 laps old. When getting loose, coming off of 2 there. Meanwhile, the other drivers pitted around lap 50, so at least 10 laps, and as you mentioned, even older in a couple of occasions. So very much the man to be worried about cars in behind him. Currently 8 seconds in front of Richard Coxon. And Ray Riddle, and then David Yates not too far behind those two either.
And still 30 laps to go, so plenty of time for something to happen, for things to change here.
Certainly the case. And while Lapinski is gapping Yannick, he ain't gapping him quite as fast as it looked like he did in the first stint, so I wonder if that would possibly rattle Lapinski into a tiny error or not.
Certainly possible, although you may also just be pacing himself.
It's very much possible, but I find that actually more of a dangerous thing than trying to run closer to where you know the car can run.
Indeed, usually one of two things happens when you tell your driver to ease off and pace himself. He either goes a lot faster or he crashes.
Which is somewhat of a trait, I suppose, from younger drivers in real life, where owners will often end up saying, well, he's still young, he's still learning, whenever a young driver goes a bit too fast and crashes. If it were, say, Sullivan in the late 80s, the owner would probably say, oh, he made a horrific error, that was all his fault. He shouldn't have done that, in comparison. Although I could obviously be wrong, but that's generally how it seems to be.
We're looking at his lap times, they're certainly not dropping off, so I don't think he is going any slower. If anything, Brian Yannick may well be going quicker.
That's very impressive to see that Brian has that kind of pace in the car. Question is will he be able to keep it up for the whole race and keep Lapinski under pressure, or will he himself end up cracking in the end?
Well, they're matching lap times at the moment. Like both of them did a last lap of a 34.4 second lap, so no lack of effort on either of their parts.
Very much so, and the battle is still on here between Coxon and Riddle. Only 0.2 between them at the moment. I noticed Coxon had a bit of a moment over the crest coming out of 5, and very nearly scraped along the wall. And Riddle really attacked the final couple of turns there. Really threw the car in. Riddle with a better run through 1 and 2, possibly with a chance coming out to the dogleg into 4 and 5. Not quite able to. That Patrick car of Coxon's is running very well through the dogleg.
Yeah, but if Riddle can get a good exit here, he's got a nice big draft all the way up the front straight, which he has. 200 miles an hour at the braking point for turn 1.
Looks like he wasn't expecting to go quite that fast and ran a little bit deep.
It's something you have to be careful with these cars. It can be the case that it's not the dirty air that's giving you that understeer when you turn in, you may just be going 10 miles an hour quicker than you did the last lap and not realise it.
Which could very well be a very big problem for drivers going around the racetrack.
Well, the other thing you need to be careful of if you're spending a long time behind the car in front is, and running faster down the straight every lap, you're putting more revs on your engine, and it's very easy to blow the engine up without realising that you've over-revved it.
Indeed, and another driver doing a very good job here in the second race, who didn't quite end up getting as much luck as he would have wanted, I suppose, in the first race.
Oh no, Ronnie Larson-Miles has spun coming out of turn 5.
Oh dear. Into the parking lot. Let's see if he can find his way out. This feels like McRae's protege. In rallying. His name is as much as...
Well, Miles keeps it running and runs through the pits, but he's back on the track. So hopefully we'll be able to recover from that.
Yep, and that was honestly a very clever move, running through the pits. There's very little chance of anyone pitting at this time of the race, and that gives him a bit of an opportunity to try and clean his tyres a little bit in the pit lane in a safe environment and out on track. So very nicely done there.
Yes, he does seem to have been showing quite good awareness, at least from what I've seen of him so far.
Oh, and in the meantime there, Juha sneaked up the inside of Jason White and picks up 11th. So I'd say, in terms of Jason White hitting the outside wall, coming off of 5 earlier in the race, it certainly has affected his car. It doesn't quite look to be on the same pace as it was in the first heat.
Just looking at David Yunt now, he does seem to be slowly but surely falling back towards Richard Coxon, so we may well see a battle for 5th shortly.
Indeed, let's actually jump on board with Ray Riddall here, running in behind Bors at the moment. Coxon just a little bit up the road, and nearest car ahead of Coxon that we can see there is David Yunt's McLaren. So Ray Riddall has the treats in front of him to chase. The question is it enough for him to have those treats to chase, or will he need a bit of a moment for the cars in front? He had a good 4 and 5 that time, as we have about 18 laps to go in this race. So this race has gone by very quickly indeed. It looks like David Yunt's time is starting to run out, because the guys in behind him is getting ever closer, and he hasn't been able to lap. I believe that's Brun Chacon in front of him in the Riley. It is indeed. Oh, and he scrapes the wall on the outside going into turn 1. Dear me, I think David is starting to feel the pressure.
I think he's feeling the pressure and the tyres as well. May even be trying to save fuel, I'm not sure.
This is now scored in. Is that because he missed the sector line maybe? Yes, it was okay. So he is down to 6th, because that's Coxon sneaking up his inside. Let's see if Ray can do the same thing in the lap's time. As you can see that David really struggling with the car at the moment. Ray again throwing the car into 4 and 5. Really impressive to see him in those 2 turns. And using all the road to try and get some speed out of that McLaren. And another twitch coming out of the turn 2. Ooh, and a slow car. Was that Ronnie Larson Miles?
It was. He had some kind of moment coming out of 2. It looked like he was slow coming off the grass through the dogleg.
Ah, okay, so he was trying to stay out of the way. That looked very close indeed. That could have just been the camera angle, I suppose. So I see Ray now really close in behind David Junt. It looks like the gap in front is now 2.5 seconds, so they are still more or less trading equal lap times in the top 2 positions of the race, but so far both of them is holding on. As is David Junt ahead of Ray Riddle. I wonder if Ray's car is a little bit worse in dirty air compared to other cars.
It's quite possible. He did look to be fairly quick down the straight, so he may be running a bit less swing, but as we say that, he's through into 6th place ahead of Junt now.
Indeed, that looked very easy indeed. So that's Junt down to 7th now, so Coxon up into 5th and Ray Riddle up into 6th. And David Yates now 7.5 seconds behind David. David could possibly hold on to that, but we'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
I think Yates must be nursing some kind of damage. I would expect him to be a little bit quicker at this point in the race.
Very much so. If I remember correctly, he had a loose moment in the dogleg and slammed the right rear of the car into the barriers, so possibly right rear suspension tweaking or a track roll or something that's not quite lined up the way it should be.
That may well be the case.
It's very easy for that to happen in these cars. They are a little bit on the fragile side if you hit them in any way wrong along a barrier or into another car.
Absolutely. And Slipinski now, 10 laps to go, crossing the line once more.
And a 2.5 to 3 second lead.
Oh, I think.
Oh, and another spinner onto the infield. I just saw the tire marks and smoke on the road. I believe that could that have been?
I caught the tail end of David Jakes having a bit of a moment out of turn 2, but I can't see anyone off into the infield.
I'll see who is behind him at the moment. That's not the leader, so I wonder who that was then that had a bit of a moment as well. Well, I thought I saw the smoke, but oh well. Either way, the race goes on. Actually, I wonder if that could have been Jarev maybe, since he's a retirement now.
No, I think he's been out for quite some time, I think.
Okie dokie. Well, Cesare still leads, Yannick in 2nd. Matanen looks to be, I was going to say a secure 3rd, but maybe not. Fregson is still closing in, not by much each lap, but if Matanen is ever struggling with lap traffic or the tires, Fregson is within striking distance to take advantage. Coxon 5th with Ray Riddle still in 6th and chasing the Eagle driver. Junt 7th and holding on ahead of David, so Yates that is, so presumably, as you say, there is indeed damage to the right rear of that Eagle. Ibanez currently 9th with Junior in 10th. Juha Bos in 11th, and Jason White on the grass coming out of 4 and 5. Has to go through the pits. And make a safe re-entry here coming out of the pits. Looks like he's able to do so, but that means he loses a lot of his advantage to David Saber. Saber will be no more than around 10-11 seconds, I think, behind White by the time he gets up to speed again. About 10.5 to 11 seconds indeed, so that could cause troubles for Jason come the final lap of the race.
Oh, there's some black smoke in the back straight.
Oh, that's oh no, that's Equino, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Dear me. Ooh, looks like I wonder if he was changing gears and he just. No, it wasn't. That was just the engine. Unfortunately, giving up the ghost. So that's unfortunately Equino out of the race, but that means David Saber is now up into the points. And within 8-9 seconds of Jason White up in front.
He's still got 4 laps to try and get a little bit more. We'll have to see what he can do. And Coxon and Riddle are quite close together for 5th as well.
I think they've been running together until the pit since the pit stop. With at most like 2 or 3 seconds between them, but other than that gap having been there from on occasion, they've been running more or less nose to tail. Both of them a little bit deep into 4 and 5. Ooh, and Riddle with a bit of a loose moment coming over the crest. Riddle trying to cut back to the inside to get some air on his front wing. He's able to do so. Let's see if he can possibly get a good exit here. With 3 laps to go, 2.5 laps to go. Certainly looks to be the hottest action on track at the moment, so let's follow it as they go on to 2 laps to go, and the distance is about half a second as they cross the start-finish line.
And as they do that, Slapinski comes out of turn 5 to start the last lap.
Oh, he does indeed. Let's give him his due, as he is leading on the final lap as well, and with a decent gap to Brian Yannick still. As I believe that was oh, that's David Yates, who had a moment coming through out of turn 2. And David Yates gets a stop go as well for riding along the wall, so must be some kind of thing there, but Slapinski takes the win in the second heat here tonight, so a double win for Slapinski. I think he'll be very happy with that, but obviously disappointed with the championship being lost. Brian Yannick finishes second, with Jukka Matanen picking up third in the second race. I think he'll be happy with that, considering what happened to him in the first heat. Jukka Ferguson gets fourth, just not quite able to catch up to Matanen. Coxon finishes 5th with David all in 6th. It looks like they are enjoying themselves, waving to each other there. David Junt finishes 7th with his very worn tyres. Alberto Ibanez looks to be picking up 8th, with Juha Bos in 9th, Jason White in 10th, David Saber in 11th, David Yates with that last lap kerfuffle only picking up 12th. With Chacot, the first car, unfortunately, and driver outside the points, finishes in the second heat. Alberto Quino, retired, finishes 14th, and Ronnie Larson-Miles, our final runner, finishing 15th for Eldon Rasmussen. Our further retirees were Raul Jereb, Peter Lavac, Mikael Drexler, Jules Bouchard, Adam Hackman, and Anders Nilsson on the opening lap.
Channel created. User joined your channel.
And there we are, just setting up a separate channel here, so since I don't have the ability to pull drivers into the broadcast booth, we'll do it this way.
User joined your channel.
We are now joined by David Junt. Looked like you had a couple of somewhat quiet races, but you got a couple of very good finishes.
Yeah, hello. Yes, I did. I mean, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna thank Juha was of the admins that the vacant car I could jump in and drive it for this doubleheader. Also thank for some pointers, some people. I mean, helped just to get in and drive there. I mean, never know when you jump in at last minute, but I managed. So the only thing that bites me a bit is I mean, starting last, I had a good race, drove to the front, then the yellow came out, which was would have been perfect for me, you know, and I'm still here waiting for, like, is the pits open? I'm forgetting that this is not kart 88, where you need to wait for, like, the first and then the lapped cars, and I don't pit, and the laps after, like I said, green flag next time by, and I'm, oh, crap, I just missed it. Would have been easy, like, refueling, best tire probably, and I just messed it up, then pitted, was basically up down, didn't notice that Petter was the leader, even though I didn't probably not want to get lapped, but then I got too close to him, trying to be on the outside, wrecked, repair, and then, well, taking 10th is okay. And for the second race, I'm not holding back the mistakes today. I reloaded the setup, and everything was good, except for the fuel was, if I pitted, it would just be enough. If I put the whole fuel tank full, I needed to pit on lap 40, and then kind of always, like, keep my foot a bit off from full throttle to even make the finish. I had 1.5 liters left at the line, so I probably messed myself up from top 5 finish, because I had a great first stint, but it was too short, and yeah, that hurt me in the second run, where I just tried to go to the end, and, well, it happened, I guess. Still 10th and 7th on a very, very tight, short one-off drive is probably respectable, so thanking for the admins for trusting me again, and for the points for everybody else, so probably wouldn't have made it without them, so thanks. Thanks, it was fun. Great track.
Good to hear you enjoyed yourself. Doesn't look like we have anyone else
User joined your
on the
channel.
way. Actually, we have
Oh, there he is.
our double winner of this evening, Cesariusz Lapinski. Congratulations, Cesariusz.
No, thank you very much. I was a bit surprised, but also a bit relaxed because just before the race I told myself that David already won the championship, so there is nothing actually to be tense for, and that's it.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it sort of looked like you drove the wheels off that Coyote tonight, but with that comment, I suppose that was just well within the limits of what you and the car could do tonight.
Yes, definitely, and I was really afraid of the engine because I still remember what happened to Anders, I think in Pocono, I guess, in the lap, I don't know, 10 to 5 laps. Last 3 or 5 laps I was actually lifting up just behind the start-finish line, just, to be on the safe side all the way I can, but hey, you never know, we don't see the engine live dial, so we can only guess.
Very much so, and yeah, we were sort of suspecting that you were taking it a little bit easy, but more for the case of you had the gap to Brian
User
to take it
joined your
easy,
channel.
but maybe with that, obviously you took it easy for the car as well, and unfortunately the championship is now over, but we still have one more round to go at Phoenix International Raceway. We finish off where we started. What are your thoughts on heading there for the final round?
Well, the car is a little bit more difficult to set up, but when you got it, in shape, it's really a very fast machine. So hopefully I will fight for the top places, but I don't mind if I won't.
Fair enough. We're also joined by double second place finisher Brian Yannick. Congratulations on your 2 second places.
Thanks, but it was second and a third, actually. Jake's got second.
Oh yeah, my apologies. Second and third place finisher.
No problem. It's still awesome.
Yeah, looked like you were about to get Cesariusz in the second race there, but didn't quite work out. But tell us from your point of view.
I was trying. It was a pretty mistake-free race, except for a couple bobbles, but Cesariusz was perfect pretty much the whole time. So if I gained like a tenth and a half, 2 tenths, I felt like, wow, that's really great. But then he would get it right back in the next lap. If I got held up by a lap car or a tiny mistake or a little wheel spin. So yeah, he was perfect. Smooth.
Okay. And looking at the first race, looked like you were taking it a little bit easy at the start, or how come you were dropping back early on there?
I just wasn't good enough. Actually, no, I just didn't have. I jumped in at the end of warm up. I didn't have a ton of practice either, so I was getting used to it. Then Anders threw me a setup before the race. I tried it out, but it took me 2/3 of the race just to get comfortable, basically, and then I've used it a bit more in the second warm up and got used to it. So that's all. Just getting warmed up a bit too late. It was fun though.
Okay, sounds good. And looking at the championship, we have one more round to go, heading to Phoenix and the International Raceway there. What are your thoughts on heading there for the final round?
Oh, that track was tricky like this one. Yeah, that'll be fun. Hope it's not a demolition derby.
Well, considering how few actual crashes we had here tonight and how it all worked out, I'd assume we will have a good good race at Phoenix as well. And
yeah, these cars and these tracks give. I don't know. I always thought oval racing was a little. I love it, but it's not the same to me as road racing. But these things are such a handful. It's exhausting, just turning left the whole time, and then you throw in this right-hand kink. So, yeah, it's a lot of work for these supposedly easy oval tracks. Especially Phoenix is going to be the same way. So much power, so little grip.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you all of you for joining us for this post-race interview. Dave, any final thoughts on tonight's action?
Well, I'd like to pass on my congratulations both to Cesarius and to everyone else who finished both races. There were some fantastic drives all around there. And thanks for putting on such a good show. And we'll look forward to next time out.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Cesarius. And I'm looking forward to the broadcast, too. It should be good.
Happy to hear it, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So, to everyone watching, thank you very much for tuning in, and congratulations, as Dave said, to all our finishers, all our participants, and thank you for putting on such a great race and such a couple of great races and a very good show. And also a big congratulations to David Yates, who clinched the championship, decided it, and can head to Phoenix with an easy heart and drive more for fun than what he probably was able to do here in the first race. And yeah, apart from that, have a great couple of weeks, look after yourselves, and see you all in 2 weeks' time for the Foster's Grand Prix at Adelaide, Australia, for the F1 1991 finale. But until then, good night and take care.
User left your channel. User left your channel.
That was fun.
Channel switched. User joined your channel.